really happy.
That's out of the box thinking, Mr. Jasinski. That bothers me, that old $20 a month for the rest of my life solution. Exactly, ahead of pace. Excellent.
Yeah, that's,
No, that's cool. So is he, can we break ground on one of the sites?
well, I'm gonna call Mark Richardson tomorrow, because I got a hold of Alex. His cell phone number on his business card, I just put in 518, but it's actually
It's not
607.
518.
I
No,
know.
it's not
So I
518.
called this morning, I get
It's
some
another
guy on the
number.
phone, you know, and it's like, so then I looked at it and said, oh, geez, tell me. So I called, and I got him just before I left the house tonight. And he was very, you know, open, and he deferred everything to Mark Richardson, the engineer. So I'm gonna call Mark this in the morning, and,
I would certainly like to see one of them get off the ground this year. I know it's getting kind of late in the year.
Still, ground up frozen, so.
so that was a promising.
Are we signing, did we sign a contract yet? or-
Really, the only thing that's holding me, $20 a month per site. So if you're pretty good with the contract, we just reach out to them.
Touch base with her tomorrow.
Very good, guys, very good. Be very excited when you break ground on one of them. It'll be really good. Excellent. Bob?
I want, no, wait a
Oh,
minute.
sorry. That's right, you were kind of leaning on Joe.
No, I would just like to make a statement to compliment you, Mike, on a 2013 budget focused and rational. Allegations of discrimination are irrational and absurd. For the first time now, Princetown has a budget that's based on facts, and it's not rigid. So, thank you, Mike. Now,
I would like to say something about the budget. You know, people in towns and cities and villages, they complain about the taxes. And then when a municipality tries to rein in the spending and tries to reduce the budget, you get a lot of complaints. If we're gonna keep a town with no tax, then these are the things we have to do. We all have to pitch in a little bit. And I think that the budget that Mike presented and that we all worked on, I think it's an excellent budget. And this is the only way we're gonna keep the town with no tax. I know that this 911, that was pushed down our throats, and we have to pay for that. And these are the things that we have to do to rein in spending, and I'm fully in support of the budget. I think we're excellent. Cool.
Since we're all commenting on the budget, I'll comment too. I agree with Lou that I think that, you know, in light of where we are nationally, you know, government can't spend more than it takes in. It's just unsustainable. I actually think we could have gone further with our own town budget. I don't know who, you know, is complaining about the cuts in the budget. I know my comments were merely pointing to the fact that I think we should have done more in a more uniform way. If we're looking for cost cutting and we're going to apply principles from a management and fiscal perspective, they need to be uniform and they need to be across the entire town, not just focused on one or two specific areas. And if we're going to use criteria, you know, it should be uniform. So I think we could have gone further than we did even, and hopefully we can do that in the future. You know, costs rising and revenue shrinking is pretty much become the norm, not just for municipalities. It's the norm of our current economy, and I think we need to get more and more creative and more participatory in how we go about, you know, trying to sustain, you know, these current finances.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Myers, Councilman Myers.
I'll have to agree with most everything that's been said. I think we've made some progress. I think we can continue to work on things in the future, and I think, you know, as far as giving the extra, extending that, letting people know that we're here to work with them, projects, I think that, as far as I'm concerned, I'm more than happy to take a look at what's needed and work with our department.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And finally, for myself, I do want to touch on a couple items here. I'll try to be as less long-winded as my normal. Ouch. Ow. So I wanted to talk about a couple things. So this thing with Norman Skill and the money spent to protect Mr. Hayden's property there, you know, it's $14,000. So I want to highlight a couple things. So did we want to spend the money? No, we didn't want to spend the money. But, you know, a couple of key things we need to understand is that the government was coming to us with 2 contracts totaling $230,000. Again, maybe not a huge number compared to other townships, but it's the responsibility of this board to make sure that when we go into these agreements, that we understand all the terms, you know, what the payment schedules are, what's got to be accomplished. This is why we had to bring in attorneys to look at these contracts. You know, again, the total was $230,000. That's just the principal. There was, you know, we had to take a loan, then you get into loans. Something else to be absolutely critically aware of is we don't get the check from the government until that project's 100% complete. All the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. So it was critical that we engaged our attorneys and our engineers to understand, you know, what the project was about. So I understand it was a little, you know, approximately 14,000, whatever the exact number was, but it was critical that we had our lawyers and engineers looking at this as many ways as possible. I had almost every meeting, as much as I could ask the board to be involved. I asked our planner to be there. I asked Water Commissioner Mead to be there. I asked Gino to be there. I asked the planning board to be there. I asked all the appropriate parties to provide as much input to this decision as possible. So again, it was critical, at least in my mind, that we were very careful going into the financial contract. We were very careful going into our engineering considerations, and mostly, again, we had to protect our aquifer and some of the downstream water purveyors from an accident happening. So again, I understand it's a big number. We'll try to recover some of the costs, but I'm not ecstatic about having to spend the money, but you know, I do want to highlight that this was not about trying to put somebody out of business. We need to protect ourselves from a budget from a budget perspective. We had to protect ourselves from an engineering perspective, and we did. Bottom line is that is our resource. That's our water. We need to protect our water. The difference between a third world country and the U.S. is the water. Without good water, you have nothing. So again, I want to highlight that. The next item that's been going around, I want to talk about this town security resolution. So I want to be crystal clear here. So, you know, there was some, we'll call them incidents around town, maybe, maybe not, whatever they were. What's critical is that I'm getting some feedback, and I observed this, was that, you know, some residents were coming into the office and sitting down and just taking up a huge amount of time, chit-chatting, doing whatever. There was a resident who comes in at 9 o'clock on Thursday, like clockwork. You could tell when he pulled the driveway. I didn't even have to look at the clock. I knew exactly what time it was. And that's fine. If somebody wants to come in and sit for an hour and chit-chat, but then we can't come back to the board saying, hey, we can't get enough work done. Don't chit-chat. You know, I understand it's a government building, and I understand it's there's a bit of socialization goes on because that's the way it is. But on the other hand, you know, at my work, if I want to sit at the water cooler and talk to somebody for an hour, at the end of the day, I still got to do my job. So, you know, this isn't about blocking people out. It's about, you know, it's a place of business. Come in, do your business, and move on. If you want to chit-chat, great, but again, don't expect the board to step up and pay for it. I don't understand that. So I think again we've made some great progress over the year for our 11 months in office here. We're still continuing to drive cost reduction. would continue to drive efficiencies. You know, I know for myself, I'm still stumbling along as we go through this, but again, I think we're starting to make progress. We're gonna see some, you know, hopefully some gains next year, especially when we get the solar in place. We continue to ask everybody to partner up and help with the lift, especially in a couple of the offices, and distribute the workload. I think it'll all work out pretty good. And again, you know, the board is open to working with everybody. So if you have issues, please come to us and we'll talk about it. I think that's all I have. I'm assuming this is, probably can't be talked about, but if there's no more thoughts here, then we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:05.
Can I make a motion?
Apparently Joe's making a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who made the motion?
Joe.
Second.
Bob.
Edward?
Yeah.
It is.
Well, no, wait a second, so we started at 6.
Yeah, what